Wszystko zaczęło się od króla Jagiełły. Mała Łodzia stała się miastem, które w XIX wieku rozwijało się najszybciej na świecie. W ciągu zaledwie 60 lat od powstania pierwszej manufaktury powstaje przemysłowa, wielonarodowościowa metropolia. Jednak wiatry historii nie zawsze jej sprzyjały. To, co zniszczył los, odbudowują łodzianie. Nasza Łódź. Miasto wielkich szans. Od 600 lat w sercu Polski i Europy.
Jesteśmy Polakami. Jesteśmy niezwykłym społeczeństwem. Zawsze w obliczu wielkiego wyzwania potrafimy się mobilizować. Potrafimy stawić czoła wielkim wyzwaniom. Bo nie potrafimy stać obojętnie. Bo obchodzi nas bezpieczeństwo i przyszłość naszych dzieci. Bo wierzymy, że nadzieja zwycięża apatię, lęk i strach. Bo mimo wszelkich przeciwności nigdy się nie poddajemy. Potrafimy ciężko pracować, wspierać się i działać razem. Bo zależy nam na naszej ojczyźnie, naszym osiedlu, naszej ulicy. Bo chcemy naszych niezbywalnych praw i wolności. Bo nie oddamy naszych marzeń. Nadchodzi punkt zwrotny.
Dzień dobry Państwu. Dziękujemy za
Good
obecność.
afternoon, ladies
Widzę, że
and
sala się
gentlemen.
powoli
I can see
wypełnia.
more people
Witam
coming
Państwa na dyskusji o
to this
tym, jak odpolitycznić
room. Welcome to the
gospodarkę.
discussion on
Ona
how
będzie
to
dotyczyć trochę
depoliticize
szerszego
the
spektrum, nie
economy.
tylko
It's going
czegoś,
to apply
co
to a
było dyskutowane
broader
chyba na jednym z sesji
topic
przed chwilą,
than the
czyli
one
spółek Skarbu Państwa, ale
discussed
szerszej
in
obecności polityków w
the
gospodarce.
State
Mamy
Treasury Companies
czwórkę
panel. We've got
osób na scenie. Przedstawię
four
od
panelists.
lewej
Let me
strony.
start
Artur,
from the
Dziambor,
left.
wolnościowcy
Artur,
i trzecia droga.
Dziambor, wolnościowcy and trzecia droga.
Katarzyna Lubnauer,
Katarzyna
Nowoczesna i Koalicja
Lubnauer,
Obywatelska.
Nowoczesna and Civic Coalition.
Michał Kobosko.
Michał Kobosko.
2050, trzecia droga.
The Third Route, Polska 2050 and Izabela Leszczyna, Civic Platform and Civic Coalition.
Więc mamy dwa takie makro duże obozy, ale
We've got like macro areas with smaller fields within, so we'll see whether there are any differences in the opinions, which is good because this offers valuable choice and more room to maneuver for voters. I would like the audience to think about the questions that you will ask towards the end of our meeting. That I would like to ask everybody for discipline in your speeches. Let's start with referring to and criticizing what is happening nowadays. That same question goes to each panelist. Let's start from Izabela Leszczyna. In your opinion, the worst examples of extreme politicizing of the economy, and could you please critically highlight the worst managed or the worst operating state treasury company? Good afternoon in Łódź. Thank you for inviting me. I would like to answer the question in the following way. However, we need to start with saying that the most dangerous thing for the economy is that we've got political state institutions and bodies regulating economic processes. This is the core of the bad things happening around. It would be easier to get rid of people who were appointed by their political parties and to give economy into the hands of specialists. The institutions will be pivotal, and cleaning after law and justice should start with that. If I were to mention two institutions rather than companies, a kind of institution is the National Recovery Plan. The fact that we don't have it results from politicizing the economy. We need the National Recovery Plan, and the economy needs it as well. The very fact that we do not have the National Recovery Plan is because the ruling party's politicians cannot be punished, and hence we've got politicized courts. So consequently, we have been deprived of 280 billion zlotys. One more institution which affects the economic situation and the financial situation of each of us is the National Bank of Poland. This is the institution that contradicts its constitutional mission, and it does not fulfill its constitutional objective. The interest rates at zero level were kept too long. I don't mean the president's political stand-ups because they undermine credibility. This is not the way the National Bank should communicate with consumers and with the market. It affects inflation rate expectations and the value of money. The last decision, which actually was Kaczyński's and Glapiński's decision, is like jumping into the swimming pool without water. We can see what happened to the Polish currency, and it will definitely contribute to long-lasting inflation. I will just stop here. And the worst managed company? Is there any company in any state treasury company which is managed well? It is like in communism for party activists. They are managed to the detriment of the Polish raison d'etat, and we have the example of Orlen and its board. There is no need to convince anybody here why. Michał Kobosko, the same question. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Freedom Games, and thank you for inviting me to this debate. This is one of the key components of our democratic opposition's mindset. We represent two alliances. We do not have the new left wing, which could be of a different opinion. However, sitting here discussing and exchanging opinions, we know that would be the first thing to do after the election. Marek, you will ask about our plans in the second part, but actually we have heard all of the answers from Ms. Leszczyna. We are all struck by what the National Bank of Poland does. There is not a single person affected by it. And this is being linked to political party in the purest form. We have had various presidents of the National Bank of Poland. Each of them had their experience, authority, and the person in office now has only the power and manages our life every day. In addition to having stupid performances and stand-ups, they've got the nuclear button they can press and increase or decrease the interest rates. I cannot see. You tried to ask which company is doing worst. I suppose it applies to all companies. It's not only about Mr. Obajtek, but the whole system of considering the whole economy, and not only economy in Poland. The party thinks that since they won the election, they own the whole state, all citizens, and they can secure only their own interests and spend the money on their needs, future and survival. 2 or more years ago, when Mr. Fogel honestly and openly said 2005, 2007, we tried to employ experts, but experts have competence. And then it turned out they do not accept law and justice program, so they decided not to employ experts in state treasury companies. This is what they do every day. I cannot think of any good example. Just look at the list of the state treasury foundations that decided to participate in the referendum. They all participate in the pre-referendum propaganda, although neither the foundations nor the companies have nothing in common with the topics invented for the referendum. The Polish National Foundation. This is my favorite example of how you can get money from the state treasury companies. They had no choice. They were only asked to spend huge money to do, although the foundation was established to promote Poland abroad. Thank you. Right, we'll come back to ideas, and now I would like to give the floor to Katarzyna Lubnauer. The task for each successive panelist is more difficult. Right, but we'll be speaking shorter. The role of the National Bank of Poland is obvious. But another important area is independent business jurisdiction. It should be secure and just. We know what happened to courts, and the same applies to business people. We should have a stable taxation system, which is not stable in Poland and can change 3 times a year. So somebody who runs their business is not capable of catching up. When it comes to parasites, the most carnivorous one is Orlen, capable of damaging other entities, taking advantage of its monopolistic nature. They can generate higher prices, and the market won't say anything about it because they are monopolists of the retail market and the wholesale market supplying petrol stations. If they need lower prices now, they damage other businesses that cannot buy fuel at the same price. They also damage other businesses, Azoty, that were protected against taking over. Considering the gas prices, we can expect that it will also apply to Azoty and to Lotos, which was sold. The current authorities reach low levels. They have their people in the boards. Whenever a company pays well, their friends work there, which undermines the company's operation. These people often don't work. They've got job contracts and operate remotely. Dariusz Matecki in the state forests, COVID ended and he used to work for Warsaw from Szczecin. So what we can see nowadays is destroying the structure of companies and the structure of state institutions. In many state institutions, when you ask people working for the companies for a long time, they will always say there are like ghost employees whom they have never seen and they don't know what these people do. the whole country, the whole state was looted. There are no rules because it's like political loot, and only our people are right. National Bank of Poland, courts, company management boards, legislation. These are the areas demonstrating how politicized our economy is. And Artur, Dziambor, over to you. Let me start with a detail. Janów Podlaski. This is the company which is also managed by Law and Justice. Initially, there was a person from another party, but if you are not interested in a certain area, the party will find you your area. World famous stud farm is horse farm is no longer successful because Law and Justice failed. Whenever I have such an opportunity, I always ask, why did you need it? The privatization was going quite well. Then Law and Justice took over and privatization was progressing. Then the Civic Platform and PSL, and then Law and Justice saying it suffices not to steal. In their case, it was about not doing illegal things, since you can legally put your friends and positions on a highly paid positions in state treasury funds, and this is fully legal. They became the business class of the Law and Justice. Previously, the party did not have its business class. This is now a party, media, and business machinery where they have their journalists, their business people, who are highly qualified as a result of working for 8 years. The people who work for a position for 8 years have acquired some knowledge, graduated from MBAs, and now they function as top-class specialists. It is not true that all these companies are in a terrible condition. They profit as a result of our efforts. We pay for their games, and they are doing quite well. They've got the tools to get the money from us. Orlen is one of the examples. I also refer to the prices of water, electricity, and so on and so forth. They can make us pay more, and then they will talk about record-breaking profits. So we should think about privatization. I hope that the future government will revive privatization. I have never been able to understand why the state should manage a stud farm. Why does a state need the largest chain of hotels and campsites? Why does the state publish newspapers? Well, that's obvious, because of election. I can understand some people's concern about the power of the Polish state and that strategic companies should be in the state hands. I am not able to understand why a company manages security, a company protecting various entities. It can be outsourced, privatized, and let private business in. I do hope I will have the pleasure of implementing or co-organizing such a project. Thank you very much for this opinion. We talked about plans for the future, because it can be interesting for you. The word starting with a rude word has occurred, and you won't find the answer to a certain question. So I will not ask if you support selling selling state property to foreign companies, because nobody is going to consider it. It's good that sale, the word sale has been used, and I suppose nobody is going to plan it in the future. So let me start asking what to do about it. Can you see any division into strategic and non-strategic companies? You mentioned the chain of hotels. In the group of some absurd solutions, as described by Witold Gadomski, there is the state factory producing production lines for ice cream. Is it really strategic for the Polish state? Most probably not. Can you see any division into strategic and non-strategic? And if so, can we consider depoliticizing the companies? What recommendations do you have, personal and recommendations of the political parties? Let me start with Izabela.
Na pytanie, czy warto dzielić spółki na strategiczne i niestrategiczne, ja odpowiadam warto. Dlaczego? Dlatego, że choćby kryzys finansowy z 2008-2009 roku pokazał, że w takiej naprawdę, ale także pandemia, że w takiej naprawdę bardzo trudnej sytuacji jednak odradzają się pewne protekcjonizmy, czy wręcz gospodarcze nacjonalizmy. Stąd uważam, że na przykład taki kawałek sektora finansowego warto, żeby był nadzorowany przez państwo. To pomogło nam także w 2008 roku, pomogło także w czasie pandemii. Ale oczywiście warunek sine qua non, warunek konieczny, do tego pewnie dojdziemy. No, nie może na czele banku stać osoba, która była posłanką i nigdy w życiu, posłem, posłanką, nieważne, i nigdy w życiu nie zarządzała żadną spółką, żadnym przedsiębiorstwem z zakresu firm finansowych. Tak jak niezrozumiałe, kompletnie niedopuszczalne jest to, żeby na czele spółki notowanej na giełdzie stanęła osoba, o której kompletnie nie wiemy, jak zarządzała spółkami, jakie wyniki miały te spółki, bo nagle okazuje się, że w ogóle nie zarządzała. Więc to są oczywiście patologie. Natomiast uważam, że jeśli chodzi także o firmy, spółki energetyczne, tu też państwo powinno mieć pewien nadzór nad tymi spółkami, ale uwaga, nie po to, żeby zamrozić ten nieszczęsny moloch, jakim stał się Orlen.
This unlucky. We need to demonopolize Orlen. One company cannot sell newspapers, fuels, gas, and do other things. We've heard that now Orlen wants to deal with artificial pesticides. So we do not want to have demonopolization. We cannot pay more money for petrol than other European countries because Orlen was keeping the price to lower the VAT, and now we received the gift. The petrol is cheaper because it's good for the elections. So Orlen can actually suffer some losses, but it has to deliver some party goals. So this division into strategic and not strategic companies is important. So I would like to tell you about an example of a company from Częstochowa. It's a non-strategic one. It's called Regional Economic Fund. And for the past 8 years, this company founded several daughter companies. One of these companies was to construct accommodation plus. It is named Violinowa. So a big fragment of forest was cut. This is the typical action by Law and Justice, and this project failed, but of course they cut the trees and nothing positive occurred there. Still, the board, the supervisory board, actually, they had a large grand opening. Morawiecki was making his appearance, and the cost to the taxpayers in spring 2023 was over 1.5 billion zlotys. So the number of the state treasury companies that were established only to maintain the management and the supervisory board has to decrease. Marek has already mentioned this naughty word starting with P. So, well, we know that any word can be used against us in the next commercial published by the ruling party. So, the party colleagues cannot earn money. It's harmful to economy. It's also harmful to the sense of social justice. When I was discussing things with young people, they were asking me, what have you got for us in your agenda? And then I told them, well, each one of you does not have to belong to any party to have the job you dream of. If you want to work for the power sector, you do not have to write to Minister Brodziński, dear uncle, help me to find this job. So if you want to do something, if you have skills, you should take part in the transparent competition, and the best people will win. We've already heard this quotation. It was Marek Suski who said that to work for state treasury companies, you need to know the program by Law and Justice Party. But since we are talking about the agenda and familiarity of the agenda, please tell us about Poland 2050. What are your ideas about the plans, and what about the strategic and non-strategic companies? I am not afraid of this P word. Well, it sounds really bad in Polish. So privatization is P. So when we think of privatization, we think of thefts. When we're talking about compromise, in Polish it has a connotation of being rotten. So everywhere in the world people are striking compromises, but in Poland it has this negative meaning. So Law and Justice Party built the myth according to which nothing should be privatized, everything should be nationalized. So we completely disagree with this. We have the opinion that if the country is too much involved in the economy, this is the pathology. There should be a more private initiative than the public ones. The presence of the state in the economy, it should be an exception. The country can be a regulator, can be a judge for the specific, assessor for the specific sectors of economy. But this division into strategic and non-strategic sectors is justified. The experience of the pandemic, the side effects of the Russian aggression on Ukraine. All these factors have shown that even if somebody is very liberal, they will agree that there is a role for the state and the state institutions, because the times now are very unstable, and we don't know whether in a while we would not face more pandemics, or if Putin will not continue fighting other wars. So there are the strategic sectors. Strategic to the state does not mean that it's for the companies which monopolize the market. So then, at the time, all foreign entities had to leave Poland. In the past, for example, it was for energy sector, they were investing into this sector. There were companies from Sweden, France, Germany, and they withdrew from the Polish market because those were the rules of the game. So also the state is too much involved in the bank sector, which limits competition. So there are several presidents of law and justice banks. And they agree the market and the market rules. Even the great investors from the Netherlands, France or Germany do not have a lot to say. They cannot decide. So when it comes to the power industry, defense industry, bank industry, defense industry, well, we are more far-sighted than Law and Justice Party. That they are talking about the equipment they are planning to buy. Minister Błaszczak is talking about the equipment he has not bought yet, but he talks about them as if they were already here. So the Polish defense industry should have 50% share in the new orders for the Polish army. This is one of our postulates. Should the factory of sweet called Pszczółka in Lublin be the strategic state company? Well, no, it is. It sounds like a joke. This company, well, we disagree that such enterprises, such sectors are treated as strategic. Law and Justice loves to perceive all sectors as strategic and perceives them as their ownership, their property. We presented our program during the forum in Karpacz, which is an interesting place where state treasury companies operate. And when I read the report by Forbes, by Forum of Civic Development, together with Liberty, so reading this report, I could see that there is going to be the national register of people who are publicly exposed to make sure that the party knows where such people work, for example, where they are. So we were talking about this specific period. Once you are deputy minister or MP, at least 12 months have to pass before such people could become managers and directors of the state treasury companies. So the rules of appointment of such people have to be changed. These companies have to be depoliticized. So once there is a change, we are fighting for this change to happen. We are waiting for the time when the democratic opposition is responsible for Poland. Then we will have the situation that we don't want the situation that the Kaczyński's companies will become the companies owned by Tusk and other leaders. So we do not want to follow a law and justice pattern, because they created the infrastructure that will suit any other government to become the owner, but it wouldn't change Polish economy. Katarzyna Lubnauer, before I allow you to speak, you have mentioned the problem relating to the fact that these companies cooperate and they establish monopolies. So most events are held not in the hotels that are cheapest, but in one of the state-owned hotels in Warsaw to show that such hotels are profitable. And it is quite absurd. Of course, they help one another. So they use the Orlen media or public TV to place ads. So, of course, there have to be strategic and non-strategic companies. Now we have the situation. You have mentioned the hotel holding. Actually, we know that this is where they record you. when we had the beginning of the strong inflation, the lowest interest rate was in the bank which previously were monopolized. Of course, I'm talking about the interest rate of investments, not of credits. So we had nothing. Then Orlen was raising prices. So, as a result, it wasn't good for the citizens. But maybe instead of privatize, we shouldn't allow to establish new state-owned companies. We have a company responsible for reconstruction of Saski Palace. We've got a company that will be involved in Izera production. And now for now it has cost 1.5 billion zlotys. There is no prototype. Now they have fallen in the forest. It always starts with falling forests. So the organizers felled the forest. They spent 1.5 billion zlotys, and I don't think they will build anything. The same with the ferry and with similar projects. So maybe first we should stop the attempts of political founding of new companies to make sure that there are more managements, more supervisory boards, and new jobs for their friends and families. We can see it does not work. It's like a well without bottom where we throw the public money and nothing is available from this. So the areas of life, there are such areas of life where the role of the state is quite significant. So, for example, the public health service. The issue of medications, we know that there has to be the common European Union policy on active particles. So if we do not have them, we will be. So if there will be a problem, if there is a problem with transport of these elements from Asia, then we will not have medication. So on the one hand, we have to have this feeling that in some fields, maybe not, it's not the state solutions, but European Union solutions should be available. But we do not have to build everything as the country. We do not. The state does not have to reconstruct the Saski Palace. So we don't need a specific company where there are all these people who have to be paid a lot, but they do not work. I would like to refer to you, Artur. I would like to remind you this, to remind the story when once upon a time Jarosław Kaczyński was complaining that privatization in Poland is going rather slowly. And now he is cheating the society. So what kind of solutions do you perceive for the depoliticized company? Raise your hands. Who of you have heard an event held recently in Poland? It was called the European Games. Okay, some people have heard of them. Who of you have been to these games or watched the games? It cost 1 billion zlotys to organize this event. 1 billion zlotys. So officially the state budget first was promising 400, 500, 600 million, but when the Law and Justice party didn't transfer the money, then Orlen, Poczta Polska companies provided the funding. So a very expensive event, but not many people have known about this event, have not followed it. So it wasn't very successful in terms of media coverage. And this company has been operating for many years. They had their own building. They employed several dozens of people. Subcontractors were also involved to organize this event. So this is an example how money is wasted. So I think it was much overpriced. So the problem with the state treasuries company also is that the participation of the country, of the state, in privatization, we have the situation that instead of privatization, we have nationalization. So it started with the banks. Why do we have the commercial banks with nice logos? And these are the banks with the specific marketing, and we don't even know that it's the bank owned by Poland. And it's like the political loot. The biggest problem will always be that the state, the ruling party, establishes the rules of the game. So it establishes the companies that public companies that compete against private companies. So it's the situation that like cheating. It's like an umpire in the soccer game is in favor of his son, who is the player. Initially, I said that I do not understand why the state manages local dailies. Very soon, they will be bankrupt for these newspapers to be able to survive. They have to be funded by the state treasury companies. So, for example, these companies buy advertisements in these papers. They pay for the advertisement. So that's the key problems. Theoretically, all of them generate income. Well, almost all of them earn income. It will be very hard to show that their management was not sound. So we will have to use different methods to manage this. It will be hard also to evaluate, to establish the value of such companies, because during the privatization process we were operating in a different world. Now, for the past 8 years, this process did not occur. So, if anyone wants to interfere with the process, the ruling party will accuse this person as being a traitor. So they only love these things that are Polish. So what is theirs? It's Polish. So this is the rhetorics we will have to face if we try to interfere with the process, and we have to interfere with this process.
Thank you very much. We've got 15 minutes left. There are two questions. Okay. Piotr Mlewicz from Trade Union Alternative. I would like to ask a question that I asked in the previous panels. I am for transparency in economy. Are you for such a solution to find out who the candidates are, and are you for open competitions to key positions? Will the problem of apolitical candidates be solved? So, transparency of candidates and procedures. Any other opinions? We can see a gentleman over there. I would like to ask about electromobility. Is there a central traffic hub? What ideas do you have? Should we close it down, or perhaps there are other solutions? We spent a lot of money on electromobility. What can we do about it? What is your idea for it? Right, there are two topics related to investments. I suppose nobody is going to backfill the ditch at Mierzeja Wiślana, but the traffic hub is an idea for the future. I suppose the gentleman from the trade union will be satisfied with my answer, knowing that you will expect recipes on how to leave the issue of apolitical, how to deal with apolitical solutions. The state treasury companies should not have the secret of individual earning, especially considering what happened to our country in the last 8 years. This is the main method to depoliticize. We should follow open recruitment, which would be an opportunity for new candidates, for people who are reliable, who have skills and qualifications, the same requirements for specific positions, which is like the job description sheet. They need to be dedicated to specific sectors. We'll have details then, but the job description sheet, meaning what do you need to have to take part in such a competition. We know that the competition often is written for the specific candidate. The law and justice knows who the candidate is, and they ask, what have you graduated from? BA in theology, or whatever, or MA. You understand what I mean. There are specific solutions and requirements concerning education and the obligation for revealing your finance. If these are the money, this is the money of the taxpayer, and we agree that in the strategic areas the supervision should exist, definitely some financial declarations are mandatory, and revealing the employment structure and also the number of positions and yearly income. This way we will be able to remove the bad candidates from state treasury companies. We are not going to backfill the ditch. As for the central traffic hub, 100 proposals of ours promised to take a closer look at it will definitely stop the investment, because it should not be based on people who suffer harm. Some illegal things happen there. I would like to see one business proof confirming that it is reasonable from the economic point of view. We can do one thing. Since we have spent so much money, it is worth adding around 100 million and let the local government use the ditch to the harbor. This is the example how the authorities fighting with local authorities damages what they have built. We can only count canoes there. That's one idea. When it comes to central traffic hub and Izera, an audit is required. We need to settle those who spent public money, who wasted public money. If we do not take them accountable, people will keep on asking questions. And I would like to ask, do you have any data on how much the central traffic hub should cost? There has never been any specific data on the financing. As for transparency, Piotr, I have nothing against it, but you need to remember there is a certain danger, a certain risk. We love being we like showing off, even if we don't want to reveal where we have the money from. Some people are excited about money. Politicians always need to submit their reports every year. State treasury funds could be another such place, but there is also a danger, another risk. You mentioned you are an advocate of full transparency. I am a teacher, and this is the job which requires full transparency. Every student, every parent knows how much teachers earn. I have heard over and over again, when one of my pupils learned how much I was earning, he asked me, "Do you really feel like coming here for such poor money?" And that was the moment when we will definitely be in such a world, because you build respect through wealth. If you have this halo of being wealthy, you gain respect. And teachers are not respected because the whole Poland knows this is the job where you do not earn good money. We could talk about transparency. However, not everything should be public knowledge when it comes to earnings. Some things related to the ditch are irreversible, and we cannot do more about it. However, if Law and Justice started talking about power plants, they would be halfway through. I live near Choczewo, where the nuclear power plant is supposed to be built. If the process was started back then, perhaps we would have nuclear power plants now in Bełchatów, in Choczewo, if Law and Justice treated this project seriously, but unfortunately it did not. They boast about the hectares they purchased. We know at what conditions they are purchased. The social protest of the people living nearby is really huge. My colleagues mentioned the audit. This is something we should start with. But if I were to express my opinion, I would like to end this project. Nuclear power plants could make us feel less dependent. However, the rest of the world will be faster than us and will be again lagging behind. Okay, so just briefly, if I may. We suppose that people working for the boards in state treasury funds should have transparent conditions and remuneration. This is robbery, a large-scale robbery when it comes to bonus. The managers of state treasury companies pay for the Law and Justice. We know that's the way the system functions. You get the job, but you also declare how much you are going to pay for the party. This is the banana republic, but this is a wrong detrimental term for the republic and for bananas. So definitely transparent remuneration, transparent recruitment. Yes, indeed. We need to show the change for good, that we are looking for specialists. Not that somebody stayed somewhere for 8 years and now they want to come back to the state treasury company. And this is not the main criterion. The 3 large projects we are talking about, you cannot backfill the ditch because maintaining it will cost the money. This is the most costly Elbląg will not become a port, a significant trading port. Izera, it is created. That was supposed to be the Polish electric vehicle. There was the agreement with a Chinese corporation, Geely, and also the huge state investment. If such a factory is going to be opened, it's going to be a Chinese factory in Poland. We do not say stop immediately, I mean in the form in which it is going on. These are the lies we can hear. We have heard the promise that in 2027 some planes are going to take off from and land in Baranów, and it's not true. Gigantic investment combined with railway investments, and the Polish railway lines proved they were not able to implement investments in Poland. They can only limit investments. We need to consider the development of Łódź, Radom, Modlin and Chopin's airports. Yeah, we know. We'll definitely save Okęcie. We'll be ready to discuss how we should transform Okęcie into urban airport, but that's a different story. The central traffic hub is a Gerex-like project that cannot be created this way. We have heard some ideas and diagnoses, and I do encourage you for discussion informally. The time's nearly up, so I would like to ask the question that is typically asked in Radio Z, meaning yes or no. The question, one of the questions in the referendum announced by Liberté. The last question is, do you think we should depoliticize public media and state treasury companies? Yes. It's a difficult question, but yes. Yes. Sorry, someone's speaking without the microphone. And who is for? Who says yes? And who says no? The optical majority says yes. And this is the voice we should follow. Can I say one thing about the media? You often hear that somebody used to affect public media in the past as they do now. Just a simple exercise. Look what you could see at TVP Info 8 years ago, before election. There were representatives of all political parties. And then try to watch it now. And the future of the public media will be a topic for future debates that the future coalition will deal with. Thank you very much. Izabela Leszczyna, Michał Kobosko, Katarzyna Lubnauer and Artur Dziambor. Thank you.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it and how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise.
Jestem z zawodu lekarzem, zajmowała się diagnostyką chorób nowotworowych.
W Białorusi zajmowałam się mikrobiologią i molekularną biologią.
Byłem nauczycielem szkoły podstawowej.
Naszym celem jest budowanie umiejętności, które są ważne na polskim rynku pracy.
Szybko nabierają takiej pewności siebie, bardzo szybko się uczą.
Wszystko możliwe, kiedy starasz się.
Każdy wybór ma swoje konsekwencje.
Dziś na kazaniu o takich jak ty mówili, że to morderczynie.
A wiesz, że ta, która ci pomogła, trafi za kraty?
Trzeba mieć sumienie.
Jak mogłaś to zrobić własnej matce?
Aborcja to najgorsza zbrodnia.
Gdybym ja podjęła taką decyzję, nie byłoby cię tutaj.
Organy państwa nie będą przyglądać się temu obojętnie.
Życie i zdrowie kobiety jest najważniejsze.
Stop kryminalizacji aborcji.
Kobieta decyduje.
Dzień dobry.
Dzień dobry. Pan Zbigniew Hołdys.
Zgadza się. Dla znajomych Zbyszek.
Serio? Zbyszek. Nadchodzące wybory są zbyt ważne, żeby zostawić je bez kontroli. Dołącz do obywatelskiej kontroli wyborów. Zróbmy wybory bez picu.